Welcome. My name is Trish. Thank you so much for joining me for today's celebrity reading. Keeping it light and simple today, I'm going to be using the Stardust Shadows Tarot as well as the Immortal Cycle Oracle. So we're looking at there's a few rumours going around that there's some tension in the relationship of Ryan Renolds and Blake Lively. So I've got some questions to ask. We're going to do a little deep dive. We're going to have a little bit of fun with the cards today. So nice and simple, nice and light. This is entertainment purposes only. So I pulled the chart today, Ryan Reynolds' birth chart, so I can take a look. He's got quite an interesting placement. Actually, why don't I pop that on the screen? Yes, and I know I've printed it just because I wanted to. Actually, I don't mind the printing, and the clarity is pretty good. Okay, so interesting placements on Ryan Reynolds' chart. Firstly, I'm drawn to the 7th house over here. The 7th house covers relationships, and I see, and since we're talking about relationships today, I thought it'd be a good one to focus on. There's some challenges come in his relationships for a start. He's got Chiron, which is the wounded healer, which means he's bringing in wounds from the past, whether that's past lives, past relationships, wounds that he's had that he needs to deal with in this lifetime. So this could be his repeating patterns. And speaking of repeating patterns, let's pull a card from the Immortal Cycle because it just loves to cover those things. Ryan Reynolds, we're talking repeating panels. The card we've got there is the Path of Togetherness. This is the relationship house, so it's really fitting. So he's having to endure challenges in relationships, and that's his difficulties in this life. So the Chiron is the wounded healer, so it's things that you're meant to come in and resolve and work through and perhaps teach others, but it shows the challenges. Now the challenges in the 7th house is the relationships. It's Aries energy as well, so quite challenging because Aries can be impulsive, it can be argumentative, conflicting or competitive, but it can also be selfish. So part of his Chiron energy is dealing with how he treats people in his relationships, but also the level of selfishness or me versus you type. That's his wound to heal in this lifetime, is my energy versus our energy. So, and yeah, interesting. That is his wound playing out in this 7th house of relationships, and Chiron, the wounded healer, and that happens to be Aries. So very, very challenging energy there. Now, showing on the cards, it's saying that his challenges lie in his relationships. So, and here it is having to endure certain difficulties and overcome those difficulties. That is Chiron. That's what Chiron is all about. But there's more than that. There is definitely more than that with this. Before I get into the actual reading and the questions that I have, just the chart in itself is fascinating. So all the pieces coming together. So it's multifaceted. There's many things, as I said. So there's some other placements there. Now we have Pluto. Pluto is a very difficult and challenging planet. It's powerful, actually. It represents your value, your power, your self-control, and how much control you have in a situation. So it's part of his challenges in his relationships could be related to controllingness, asserting dominance, or where the power lies within relationships, showing on his birth chart. So quite a challenging planet. Now I don't have Blake's birth chart printed. Because I've got so much to go through today, I thought it would be, I might put them two together as well as current transits. Now, current transits that's coming up in the 7th house, because we are talking relationships, that's without even looking at anything else that's going on in his chart, focusing on purely on relationships for this reading. We see straight away part of his wounds that he needs to work through are going to be related to the relationships that he has. There will be challenges. He also has Pluto there. Pluto is all about control. There's going to be issues in relationships around control. There's also going to be issues in relationships around Aries energy, being, competitiveness, selfishness, me versus you kind of energy, or me versus us kind of energy. And across there over in his first house, this is big. His first house over here he's got Libra energy, but he's got Jupiter, expansion and growth, in his first house, which makes him big. So it is big, and maybe even in his eyes, he's bigger than he is. He's yes, it shows like energy around optimism and a person that is charming, a person that is jovial and charismatic, fun, bright, kind of big energy, expansive energy there with the Jupiter. But we also see Jupiter being big. Now in the first house, it's big energy around, money, wealth. It can also be about how you see yourself because it's your identity. So big personality is what we're seeing in that first house. So interesting. Now that is playing in opposition. Now they're not in opposition. Yes, actually they are in opposition. We've got 26 degrees on Jupiter's side versus 27 degrees. So that is in opposition over on the Chiron. So that is a wound that he's got to work through. His bigness, his big personality, his how he sees himself as in this lifetime, his identity versus how that plays against his relationships, being the challenges that he needs to overcome, but also the issues around control or competitiveness or selfishness. Interesting. So I'm going to put that to the side. The other interesting thing that's going to be coming up for Ryan Reynolds is we have Neptune has just gone into Aries, 0 degrees. So it's not close. There's a 9-degree orb. Actually, if I look at that, 27 degrees and 9 degrees of Pluto. So it will hit his Pluto first. It's still at the moment, there's a 9-degree orb between natally, or his natal Jupiter is at 9 degrees, whereas Neptune is transiting in this house 0 degrees. So there's still a big orb there. So he will feel that it's gone into his house. He will feel that energy, but it's going to become even more challenging as the Neptune sits closer to his natal Pluto. And so what Neptune represents is dissolving things that no longer work. So there'll be some changes, and Pluto is the planet of transformation and change, but once it gets close to that Neptune, coming closer into that orb closes, the gap closes between the two, we're going to find there's going to be even more challenges with wanting to dissolve certain things around his relationships. So now, and we've got the familiar, and his obligations. So he's going to be wanting to address certain obligations in his relationships and what is familiar to him, family members even, but people close to him. He's going to be addressing those. Now, boundaries come into play as well with the Neptune energy, but so does definitely the energy of dissolving things that are not working anymore. So let's get into these questions and have a little bit of fun with this reading. I'm going to be starting over here first of all with my Stardust Tarot. The first question is, what is the current energetic state of the relationship between Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively? Entertainment purposes only. Now, this is an interesting card, given that we just looked at the placements, Ryan Reynolds' placements. There is an energy here of Ace of Swords, dominance, getting control of a situation. Now, there's some vulnerability. We have the Page of Cups. So there's some vulnerability within the relationship here. There's energy around being public, actually. So certain things coming out in the public and being so public. Now, this could be related to the past stuff that was going on with Blake Lively. But I feel like it's been a bit of a haze. So it feels to be, if I pop that on the screen where you can see it, it's been a haze. So it's been foggy and hazy. The whole situation over the last 12 months has just been, how do we deal with this thick fog of negative press that's been going on around them? They've been in a very compromised and vulnerable position with the information that's been coming out around them, but they're trying to get control of that situation. Now, if I pull one from the other cards, let's take a look at the energy between Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. What is their current energy at this time, their relationship? Okay, they have recurring themes. This is patterns that keep emerging, that keep coming up. And I can't help but think how relevant this is to the astrology chart that we looked at on Ryan Renolds. Ryan Reynolds' chart of being Chiron, which is repeating patterns that you have to work through or traumas that you have to work through. We've got the card of reoccurrence here. So the card is repeating patterns. So patterns in a relationship. These things have happened before. So what they're facing right at the moment on a private level with their relationship, it's not just once, it's a pattern that keeps reoccurring in this relationship. And we may see parts of this come to light in the media, but other parts it's very private. But it feels to be this energy is a reoccurring pattern, something that, and it's very strongly linked to Ryan Reynolds' birth chart, being the Chiron, the wounded healer, having to work through these past traumas or these reoccurring patterns that keep playing out in his relationships. Self-love talks about could be slightly looking at selfishness here. Now, okay, for one thing, I'm picking up on two energies around this. Now, when I first read self-love, I thought, wow, selfish energy, it's Aries energy, that really makes sense. But self-love can also talk like the hit that's taken on confidence. Somebody, and when I say that, I think, wow, that couldn't be. There's no way. There's no hit to the confidence on Ryan or Blake. So I feel they're both big personalities, but I am seeing an energy here of something going on around self-love. So maybe they both really admire themselves, being that Aries energy. Without looking at Blake's chart, I can't really tell what's going on with her, but in the relationship, we've got repeating patterns around self-love, which lines up with that Aries energy is my energy versus our energy. So that's playing out as a reoccurring theme within their relationship. The next question is what emotional, and I'm staying with the immortal cycle on this question because this one talks about patterns in life, patterns in somebody's life. So what emotional patterns are playing out behind the scenes? So let's take a look at the emotional patterns behind the scenes in their relationship. Endings. This is playing out behind the scenes. Maybe there's talks of it. Maybe they look, interesting. Put that on a screen where you can see that. Withheld affection. This is unrequited love. It's also facing back to back. They're not seeing eye to eye here. They're facing back to back. They're not on the same. This is private. This is coming up in what emotional patterns are playing out behind the scenes in private. We see endings. Within the relationship, we see withheld love or withheld support. We see them not seeing eye to eye, back to back. Now we also see in private, we see something around agreements made, taking a look at their prenups, taking a look at their contracts, taking a look at the agreements that they've made to each other. So, and maybe ending some agreements. Now, it doesn't mean it's their relationship ending. It's just saying they're taking a look at their facing in different directions too. So showing that maybe they've both focused on different things, but they're not seeing eye to eye in this situation. There's definitely disagreements, but they're taking a look at their agreements or their contracts, and in respect to should there be endings coming up, or is there some endings coming up in that relationship? Okay, the next question. Okay, let's pull a card for each individual person on how they're feeling within that relationship. Let's start with Ryan Reynolds. How is he feeling within that relationship? Okay, this one jumped. This card jumped out. Okay, so it's about surrendering and going with the flow. So having to just really ride this wave of negativity that's been going on in the relationship, surrendering. Now, so what's happened, and it's been very public, has had an effect on their relationship. So it's had an effect on him because I'm asking about him. So this is all entertainment purposes. We're just having a bit of fun here. But what we're seeing in around his feelings, he's affected by what has gone on in so publicly within their relationship, and having to really just let go and surrender to the situation. So no longer just resisting what's coming on, now shining. So this is, put the shine card there. So he's shining in the relationship. So he's really focused on his career. He's focused on how it has affected his career. You can see that there, and having to surrender to what's gone on and the effects that it has had on his career. I'm saying career because this is a card of shining. It's about being in the spotlight, and he's taken a hit there. He is affected by this situation and had to just surrender and go with the flow of it to not stir things up or make them worse. So let's pull a card from the Stardust as well for Ryan's energy around the relationship. So it's been deeply affected, how he feels about his relationship, because of its connection to how it's affected his career. Movie. So that's an interesting card. I'll put this one down here. So it's a movie. Movie in the making. Maybe he's very focused on his role in a movie, because that's what's playing out there. That's the card there. Okay, renewal. So there's some renewal there. He's been also, accepting a distraction as well. So here it says renewal. Renewing his contracts, even. I'm feeling contracts. May not even be to do with the relationship. It may be to do with a movie. He's got a renewal of a movie coming up, and that's where he is focused. He's shining in that area. He's more so than on his relationship. He has just accepted the outcome of that relationship and is focusing himself on his work. Now, the other card that was coming out didn't quite fall out. If I can show you that card there, is distraction. So he's keeping himself very distracted by work. He's focused on his career and on his work rather than on the relationship. That's very interesting. So let's take a look. We'll start with these cards and take a look at entertainment purposes only. Blake's energy around the relationship. Blake's energy towards the relationship with Ryan Renolds. Okay, so the first card that came out was the rebirth. So looking for a new outlook or a new look or a new change of... She's looking for something new. She's looking for a new form. So she's looking for something new because we're looking at her feelings towards the relationship. Well, she's either trying to rebirth something new. It's not renewal, so it's not trying to renew the relationship or the vows or the energy there. She is after a new rebirth, a rebirth relationship. There is a web of lies connected here to this relationship. On the back is scandal. We have the whole situation has been draining. So that not only the scandals has been draining on her input into the relationship, but she's feeling draining within that relationship as well. Interesting card here says exclusivity within that relationship. A rebirth. Next that comes up is connections. So this is the Two of Cups. It is relationships card. Generally speaking, traditionally speaking in tarot, it is the connections card, the relationships, the new relationships, the connectedness of people or a relationship. But what we have here is the connections and is exclusiveness versus connections. That's kind of interesting. And then we also have some caution, renewal. There's a renewal card. Renewals on the back, but the one that it flipped up this way, it flipped up in caution. They're having to be very cautious around how their relationship looks to the public, to do with her connections, the connections that she makes. So now the question here was, how does she feel about this relationship? Well, she's very drained. There's lies going on here, and she's looking for a rebirth of her energy within a relationship. She's looking at something exclusive, but she's also looking at having to be cautious around the connections that she is involved in. Maybe maybe that plays back into triggers for Ryan's birth chart. So he's a Chiron in relationship house, and his Pluto being very controlling is affecting her energy, being that she's got to be very careful in who's cautious in her connections, because it triggers his Chiron and Pluto in his relationship house. So that's very interesting as well. So let's take a look further into this, and we'll see what healing is needed to restore the balance of their relationship. So what healing is needed? Now I'm going to pull one from here, but I think we'll mostly get this one from the immortal cycle. So what healing is needed within to restore balance in their relationship? Okay, so we've got the card of the Eight of Swords, being that there's they're trapped in a mental prison. So it's very, they feel very trapped in this relationship. Now the knowledge will set you free. So that's kind of interesting. Now knowledge sets you free. So this card here is the High Priestess in the upright position. So keeping things very close to your chest, trying not to let too much out in the public or let information come out in the public. But maybe they're trapped by the information that does come out in the public. Here we see a different, so it's not what you would expect. It's different. Now the question that I am asking is, what support is or healing is needed to restore balance? Well, they're feeling very trapped in this situation given the knowledge that's coming out about them, but maybe it's a different approach altogether. Maybe it's not healing or restoration. It's different. Okay, let's ask it in a different way. Will they heal and restore their relationship? And there's a lot here that's unresolved. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot. They have the potential, where they've got the potential to restore or resolve the issues that's taking place in their relationship, the energetic issues that's going on. Now, new technology, new ways, so trying something completely different, a new way to resolve the energy. Now, what I am getting is that energetically, the difficulties that are faced with the court cases, as well as just the energy, and especially big personalities having to be liked, like Jupiter wanting to be liked in the first house. We're talking Ryan Renolds here, wanting to be liked. That is taking a hit on his energy, not to mention the difficulties he's facing in his relationship astrologically, because he's just had Neptune enter into his seventh house of relationships. He's going to be feeling it, and more so towards the future. So he'll start to feel that energy now, looking at what he needs to dissolve in his life around his relationships to work through his current traumas or reoccurring patterns, but also the controlling issues around the Pluto in the seventh house. So quite interesting placements there. So let's take a look at what is the likely trajectory over the next couple of months for Ryan Renolds and Blake Lively. Again, we've got the innovation, something new. So let's have a look at that one there. Endings, putting an end to something. Okay, so endings could be to the relationship itself, or it could be putting an end to certain things in a relationship. Being a trailblazer, looking for a new way of doing things, or something new. So trailblazing, new energy. Trailblazer kind of reminds me of Aries energy. Aries energy, because they're the first to get out and do anything. They've got impulsive kind of trailblazing energy, first to put themselves out there and get out there and do it. So he's focused heavily on work, but looking for a way to, definitely he's got this ending coming up around him. Now, will they make it through? That depends on their relationship, because everybody goes through ups and downs in relationships, and everybody has hurdles. Now, when you have the astrological placements that are coming into, or transits that are coming through, they're challenges, and you either ride that wave together as a relationship, and make it stronger, or you choose to dissolve what's not working. Now, whether that means the relationship itself is not working, so they're going to be choosing to dissolve that or end that situation, or they're going to put an end to the things that is not working within their relationship and instead try new things, so something new coming up. So either way, there's something new coming up around that energy of that relationship. So they're going to be doing it differently or coming to an end. And I think it's very strongly connected to the astrological placements that Ryan Renolds has transiting through his 7th house of relationships. And that is without even looking at Blake Lively's transits to see what's going on with her. Let's pull one final card from each of the decks. What can you tell me that we don't know? What is coming up for this relationship? Remember, this is all entertainment purposes only. It's just a little bit of light, easy fun today. Okay, so we see unyielding opposition. So there's difficulties in the relationship. Now, when I think of the opposition, I think about the chart that I went through at the beginning, which is Ryan Reynolds' Libra energy of Jupiter in Libra. And what that means in that connection and sitting in opposition is all of these difficulties and challenges that are occurring in his 7th house of relationships. So we've got discernment here, so moving only by truth and principle. So really having to stick to principles here within the relationship. But I do see restlessness. I also see unyielding opposition. So difficulties that seem very difficult to move through. They're unyielding and they're relentless challenges. They are mostly partly what's going on in the media, but they're also partly related and connected to the astrological transits that's taking place in his 7th house. And that is difficult. They either ride that wave together or they desire to dissolve and end that relationship. So, and that will depend on both of their energies really in their relationship. But I do feel a little bit of within the cards are indicating that there is endings coming. There's definitely endings coming to something in the relationship or the relationship itself. And the planet placements are also indicating that challenges are coming and they're going to be getting more difficult. They'll start to feel it now for sure because it's just entered into his 7th house of relationships. But the closer it gets to his Chiron or his Pluto, the more challenging it is going to become. So if they think that they've got difficulties now, it's going to get worse. So they've got a lot of work to do on the relationship, or they just decide to, dissolve what's not working. Very interesting. So let's pull one more card out of this one. What's coming up for this couple next? Okay, next we've got cleanup coming. There's a cleanup coming of this relationship, keeping things clean up to keep things covered up, and bought or sold out. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. This is what's coming up that we are not aware of, or that we're going to be seeing next around this couple. There's a cleanup coming, a cover up to certain information. They're going to clean up mode. Perhaps what's been bought here, related to what's been bought around this relationship or this scandal that's involving the two of them. So remember, it's entertainment purposes only, just really interesting to take a look at the astrology placements as well as the cards and what they're saying is coming up for this couple in the future. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know what you think about their situation. I don't get too much into their scandals, but yeah, very interesting and love reading with the Stardust Tarot. So it's just exciting for me to try a different deck and to change the energy up a little bit because the political stuff gets a little bit draining. So I will be back doing some true crimes. I'm hoping to get back to them soon, but I'm restoring energy and just enjoying just playing with the cards and doing some fun light readings for now. So thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you'd like me to read on, especially with this Stardust deck, or the other relationships you'd like me to just take a little look at. So I will see you again on the next reading.